In a quiet, remote village nestled between towering mountains, the people lived by ancient traditions. Each year, they performed a sacred ritual that connected them to another realm. Elena, a curious and rebellious young woman, had always been fascinated by the ritual but was strictly forbidden to participate. Tradition held that only the elders could communicate with the spirits from the other world, but Elena felt a strange pull toward it. One night, she decided to secretly observe the ritual from the shadows. As the elders chanted, a shimmering bridge formed between their world and another. For a fleeting moment, Elena glimpsed a man standing on the other side of the bridge, his eyes locked with hers, and something within her shifted. She felt an inexplicable connection to him. The ritual ended quickly, the bridge disappearing before anyone noticed her presence, but Elena knew she could never forget what she saw. That night, Elena's dreams were filled with images of the mysterious man. She dreamt of crossing the bridge, of being in a world that looked like her own, but felt different, strange yet familiar. When she woke, she couldn't shake the lingering feeling of longing. She didn't know what it was about the man, but he seemed important, as though they shared a bond that transcended the boundaries of their worlds. Elena's curiosity only grew stronger. Despite her village's strict rules, she needed answers. Who was the man she had seen? And why did the ritual feel as though it were meant for her? She decided to visit the village's oldest elder, someone who knew more about the ancient traditions than anyone else. Little did Elena know that seeking answers would unravel the very fabric of her world and her place within it. Elena approached the village elder, old Yara, with a mixture of trepidation and excitement. Yara had always been kind to her, but Elena feared the elder's wrath if she admitted to witnessing the sacred ritual. Carefully, she asked about the bridge between worlds, hoping to mask her true intentions. Yara's eyes narrowed, her voice becoming grave. You must never speak of such things, Yara warned. The bridge is not for the young, and it is not for the curious. The connection between our world and theirs is dangerous, too dangerous for someone like you. Despite the warning, Elena could not shake the image of the man from her mind. She pressed further, asking about the people on the other side. But Yara's response was firm. They are not people like us, they are bound by different laws, and their world is not ours to meddle in. Still, Yara's words only fueled Elena's curiosity. She had seen something that night, something powerful, and she was determined to uncover the truth, even if it meant defying the elders' warnings. Elena's search for answers led her to the village's hidden archives, a place forbidden to all but the elders. One night, while the village slept, she slipped inside. Among dusty scrolls and forgotten relics, she found a book, an ancient tome filled with secrets about the bridge between worlds. The book detailed the history of the ritual, describing the other realm as a place of both beauty and danger. It spoke of love and betrayal, of connections that could transcend time and space. But it also contained warnings about the cost of crossing the bridge, about the power that could be unleashed by those who did not respect the balance between the two worlds. Elena devoured the information, growing more and more convinced that her encounter with the man had not been an accident. The book hinted at the possibility of a bond between two souls from different worlds, a bond that could reshape both realms. As she read, Elena realized that her connection to the man might be deeper and more dangerous than she had ever imagined. As days passed, the dreams returned, more vivid than before. In her dreams, Elena stood at the edge of the bridge, watching as the mysterious man beckoned her closer. His world seemed shrouded in mist, filled with strange, shifting landscapes that changed with every step. The man's eyes, those piercing, familiar eyes, were full of sadness and longing. One night, in her dream, Elena dared to cross the bridge. She stepped into the mist, feeling a strange sensation wash over her as if the world itself were reshaping around her. The man greeted her with a soft smile, his voice a whisper in the wind. You've come, he said, as though he had been waiting for her. But before she could speak, the dream shattered and Elena awoke in her bed, her heart racing. What did it all mean? Was it just a dream, or was she truly connecting with the other world? She had to find out. The more she experienced these visions, the more convinced she became that her fate was intertwined with the man from the other side. Determined to find out the truth, Elena returned to the ritual site the following evening. She waited for the moon to rise and for the air to grow thick with the energy of the ritual. When the elders began their chants, Elena felt the familiar pull once again, but this time she was ready. As the shimmering bridge appeared, Elena stepped forward, her heart pounding. The man stood there waiting, just as he had been in her dreams. But this time he spoke her name. Elena, he said softly, his voice filled with both warmth and sorrow. We are bound by the bridge. For a moment, Elena hesitated. She knew the risks, the warnings the elders had given her. But she also felt an undeniable connection to this man, something that went beyond her understanding of the world. As she stood at the edge of the bridge, she realized that stepping across it would change everything. The decision to cross the bridge weighed heavily on Elena, but something inside her pushed her forward. As her foot touched the shimmering surface, the world around her seemed to hum with energy. She took another step, and then another, until she was fully on the other side. The man, who introduced himself as Kael, smiled at her, his expression a mix of relief and concern. You shouldn't be here, he said, though his voice lacked the conviction of his words. Elena could feel the pull between them, as though the bridge itself had brought them together for a reason. Kyle explained that their worlds were connected by more than just the ritual. There had been others before them, people who had crossed the bridge and forged bonds between the two realms, but those bonds came at a cost that neither of them fully understood. Elena knew she should return to her world, but something kept her rooted to the spot. She couldn't leave Kyle, not now that she had found him. As Elena explored Kyle's world, she realized just how different it was from her own. The sky was a swirling tapestry of colors, and the land seemed to shift and change with every step. There were creatures here unlike anything she had ever seen, some beautiful and others terrifying. But what intrigued Elena the most were the people, the inhabitants of Kaya's world. They were similar to her people, yet different in subtle ways. Kai led her to a bustling marketplace where merchants traded strange goods and spoke in languages Elena couldn't understand. She felt like an outsider, but Kyle stayed by her side, explaining the customs and traditions of his people. He told her about the bridge and how it had once been open to all, allowing free travel between the two worlds. But that had changed after a war that had severed the bond between the realms and made the bridge a forbidden path. Elena listened, captivated by the history of this other world. She realized that her village's ritual was just a small piece of a much larger puzzle. The bridge between worlds wasn't just a symbol, it was a gateway to something far more significant. As the days passed, Elena and Kael grew closer. They spent hours together exploring his world and sharing stories of their lives. But as their bond deepened, so did the consequences of Elena's crossing. Strange things began to happen in both realms. In Elena's world, crops withered and animals fell ill. In Kaya's world, the skies darkened and the land began to crumble. Kaya's people noticed the changes and grew suspicious of Elena's presence. They whispered about the old stories, the legends of what happened when someone from one world crossed the bridge to the other. The balance between the realms was delicate, and Elena's presence was tipping the scales. Back in Elena's village, the elders had noticed the strange occurrences as well. Old Yara, who had once warned Elena about the dangers of the other world, gathered the council to discuss the matter. They knew that someone had crossed the bridge, someone had broken the sacred laws. Yara suspected that it was Elena, but she couldn't be sure. The elders debated what to do, torn between protecting their world and seeking a solution to the growing crisis. Some believed that the bridge needed to be destroyed once and for all, saving the connection between the realms forever. But Yara had a different plan. She believed that the only way to restore balance was to bring Elena back. The elders agreed, and a group was sent to find her. Little did they know their actions would set off a chain of events that would reshape both worlds. We need to do something, Elena said softly, her voice trembling. Our connection is tearing our worlds apart. Kai looked at her, pain etched into his features. I know, he replied, his voice barely above a whisper, but I don't know how to stop it. Elena's mind raced as Yara's words sank in. The thought of severing the bond between her and Kel felt unbearable. She had grown to love him, to cherish the moments they had shared. But at what cost? The destruction of both their worlds weighed heavily on her, and she knew there was no easy solution. Kyle, too, was torn. He had waited so long for someone like Elena, someone who felt like a part of him. But now, the bond that had drawn them together was unraveling everything they had tried to protect. He took a deep breath, his gaze looking with Elena. Elena nodded, tears welling in her eyes. She knew what they had to do, but the thought of it shattered her heart. The bond that had brought them together would have to be broken for the sake of both worlds. The elders prepared for a ritual unlike any other, the ritual of severance. It was an ancient and dangerous ceremony, one that had not been performed in centuries. The process would break the connection between Elena and Kael, but it came with great risks. No one knew for certain what the outcome would be or if their worlds would ever fully heal. Elena and Kael stood at the center of the ritual site, surrounded by the elders. Yara led the ceremony, chanting in the old language, her voice carrying through the thinning air between worlds. As the words filled the space, the bridge between the two realms shimmered, flickering like a dying flame. The energy between Elena and Kyle began to shift. She could feel the pull between them weakening, their bond fraying like old thread. A deep arch filled her chest as the connection they had shared, something that had felt so natural, so right, slowly faded away. The ritual of severance was unlike anything Elena had ever experienced. Pain seared through her heart as the bond between her and Kyle was forcibly torn apart. She could feel his presence slipping away like sand slipping through her fingers. Kaya's face, normally so full of warmth, contorted with grief as the connection between them was severed. For Kaya, the pain was equally unbearable. The bond they had shared was more than just emotional, it was a part of his soul. Now, as it unraveled, he felt a profound emptiness settle inside him, as though a piece of himself had been lost forever. The elders continued their chanting, their voices steady as they worked to restore balance. But for Elena and Kael, it felt as though the world was collapsing around them. Even though they knew it was the right thing to do, the cost was almost too great to bear. When the ritual ended, Elena collapsed to her knees, her chest heaving with sobs. The bond that had once tied her to Kael was gone, and she felt hollow inside. Kael stood nearby, silent and still, his face pale and his eyes haunted. The elders watched them, their expressions a mixture of sympathy and relief. The rift between the worlds began to heal, slowly but surely. The skies cleared, and the once turbulent energy between realms calmed. In Elena's village, the crops started to grow again, and the animals recovered. In Kaya's world, the vibrant colors returned, and the land began to flourish once more. But for Elena and Kyle, the healing of the world did little to mend their broken hearts. The cost of restoring balance had days turned into weeks, and Elena tried to adjust to life without care. The bridge between worlds was closed, and the elders had ensured that it would remain that way for the foreseeable future. Elena's village returned to its normal routines, but for her, nothing felt the same. She often found herself wandering near the ritual site, staring at the place where the bridge had once appeared. She longed to see Kale again, to feel his presence, but she knew that was impossible. The severance of their bond was permanent, and the worlds were once again separated. The ache in her heart never truly left her, but Elena knew she had to move forward. She tried to focus on her duties in the village, but every night her dreams were filled with memories of Kyle and the world they had shared.
In his world, Kael struggled with the same feelings of loss. Without Elena, his world felt incomplete. The colors that had once surrounded him now felt muted, even though the land had healed. His people celebrated the return of balance, but Kael could not join in their joy. He often stood by the edge of the place where the bridge had once connected their worlds, staring out into the void. He knew Elena was on the other side, but they were now separated by more than just distance. Their bond had been severed, and there was no way to cross the bridge again. Kael's heart ached with the loss of her, but he had no choice but to accept it. He had made the decision to save both their worlds, and now he had to live with the consequences. Despite the elders' success in closing the bridge and restoring balance, not everyone in either world was satisfied. In Elena's village, there were whispers of rebellion. Some villagers believed that the elders had gone too far in cutting off the connection to the other realm. They remembered the stories of the old days when the bridge was open and the two worlds coexisted in harmony. In Kael's world, similar whispers echoed through the streets. There were those who longed for the connection to be restored, believing that the two realms were meant to be united. They spoke of legends and prophecies that foretold a time when the bridge would be reopened and the two worlds would be one again. Both sides were growing restless, and it became clear that the balance the elders had worked so hard to achieve might not last forever. As rumors of unrest spread, Elena stumbled upon an old prophecy hidden within the ancient text she had once studied in secret. The prophecy spoke of a time when the bridge between worlds would be reopened not by the elders but by two souls whose love transcended the boundaries of their realms. The words sent a shiver down Elena's spine. Could the prophecy be talking about her and Kael? She had thought their bond was severed forever, but what if there was another way? What if their love could bridge the gap between their worlds once again? Elena's heart raced as she read further. Prophecy hinted at a ritual even older than the one that had closed the bridge. It spoke of a choice, a sacrifice that could restore the connection between realms. But the details were unclear and the risks were great. Determined to uncover the truth behind the prophecy, Elena sought out the only person she could trust, Lena, her childhood friend who had always supported her rebellious nature. Together, they snuck into the archives once more, searching for clues about the ritual mentioned in the prophecy. After hours of searching, they found a hidden scroll tucked away in the corner of the archives. It contained details about the ritual of unity, a ceremony that could reopen the bridge, but the ritual required the participation of both worlds and a willing sacrifice from each side. Elena's heart sank as she realized the gravity of the situation. If she wanted to reunite with Kael and restore the bridge, it would come at a great cost. But what that cost was, the scroll did not say. While Elena searched for answers in her world, Kael was approached by a group of rebels in his realm. They had heard of the prophecy and believed that Kael and Elena were the ones destined to reunite the two worlds. They urged him to act, to find a way to reopen the bridge before it was too late. Kael hesitated. He had already lost so much, and the thought of risking both worlds again terrified him. But the rebels were persuasive, and deep down, Kael still longed to see Elena, to hold her once more. The leader of the rebels, a woman named Seren, revealed that there was a way to perform the ritual of unity, but it would require Kael's full commitment and a sacrifice that neither he nor Elena could fully understand yet. Kael was torn between his desire to be with Elena and his fear of the consequences. Elena couldn't stop thinking about the prophecy and the ritual of unity. She knew the risks were high, but she also knew that her love for Kael was too strong to ignore. After days of soul searching, she made a decision. She would find a way to perform the ritual no matter the cost. But she couldn't do it alone. She needed allies, people who believed in the prophecy as she did. Lena was the first to join her cause, but they would need more support if they were to challenge the elders and reopen the bridge. Elena began reaching out to others in the village, speaking in hushed tones and gathering those who were dissatisfied with the current state of things. Slowly but surely, a movement began to form, and Elena's resolve grew stronger. Meanwhile, Kael wrestled with his decision. The rebels continued to pressure him, but Kael needed time to think. He had already lost Elena once. What if attempting to reunite with her caused even more destruction? Could he risk that? One night, Kael stood at the edge of the bridge, staring out into the void where Elena's world lay just beyond his reach. He remembered her smile, her laughter, the way her presence had filled his life with light. He couldn't deny the longing in his heart any longer. Kael made his choice. He would go through with the ritual of unity, no matter the risks. If there was even a chance that he and Elena could be together again, he had to take it. Elena's movement grew stronger with each passing day. More villagers joined her cause, eager to see the bridge reopen. Some had lost loved ones to the other world, while others simply believed that the two realms were meant to be connected. Elena knew that the time for subtlety was over. She and her allies would have to confront the elders directly if they were to have any chance of performing the ritual. While Kael prepared for the ritual of unity, Seren revealed the final piece of the puzzle. The ritual required not only a sacrifice but also a deep understanding of the bond between the two worlds. Kael's connection to Elena was the key, but it was not enough on its own. Seren explained that Kael would need to confront the spirits of his ancestors, those who had once crossed the bridge and forged bonds with Elena's world. Only by gaining their blessing could Kael hope to succeed in the ritual. The revelation shook Kael to his core. He had always known that the connection between the worlds was ancient, but he hadn't realized just how deeply it ran. Now he would have to face his ancestors and prove that his love for Elena was worth the risk. Elena and her allies gathered in the village square, ready to confront the elders once and for all. They had planned their argument carefully, but they knew that convincing the elders to support the ritual of unity would be a near impossible task. As the elders arrived, Yara stepped forward, her eyes sharp with disapproval. "What is the meaning of this?" she demanded, her voice carrying over the crowd. Elena took a deep breath, stepping forward to meet Yara's gaze. "We found a way to restore the bridge," she said firmly. "The worlds are meant to be connected, and we can make it happen if you'll allow us." The elders exchanged glances, but Yara shook her head. "The bridge is closed for a reason, Elena. You've already caused enough damage. We cannot risk reopening it." Elena's heart sank, but she refused to back down. "The balance between our worlds is still fragile," she argued. "But if we work together, we can restore it. We have a chance to bring both realms into harmony." The tension in the air was palpable, and Elena knew that the fate of both worlds hung in the balance. While Elena fought her battle in her world, Kyle embarked on his own journey. Guided by Siren, he traveled to the sacred mountain where the spirits of his ancestors resided. The path was treacherous, but Kyle pressed on, determined to prove his love for Elena. When he reached the summit, Kyle was greeted by the spirits of those who had crossed the bridge before him. They were ethereal, their forms shifting like smoke in the wind. One by one, they spoke of the bond between the two worlds and the cost of maintaining that connection. Kyle pleaded with them, explaining that his love for Elena was different, that their bond was not like the ones that had caused destruction in the past. He promised that they could restore the balance, that the worlds could be united in peace. Kyle nodded, knowing that he would do whatever it took to be with Elena again, even if it meant giving up his own life. As tensions between the Council and the Separatists grew, a shocking betrayal rocked the foundation of the newly formed unity. One of the Council members, a trusted ally from Kyle's world, had secretly been working with the Separatists. Their goal was to sabotage the Council's efforts from within, and their actions had already caused significant damage to the fragile balance between the realms. Elena and Kyle were devastated by the betrayal. They had trusted this individual, believing that they shared the same vision for unity. But now, the Separatists had gained a foothold in the Council, and the future of both worlds was in jeopardy. The Council was forced to act quickly. They expelled the traitor and strengthened their defenses, but the damage had already been done. The Separatists were growing bolder, and it was only a matter of time before they launched a full-scale attack. The Separatists, emboldened by their success in infiltrating the Council, launched a series of coordinated attacks on key locations in both realms. They targeted the bridges between worlds, seeking to destroy them and sever the connection once and for all. In Elena's village, the Separatists set fire to the sacred sites used for the rituals. In Kael's world, they attacked the Council's headquarters, causing chaos and destruction. The once stable connection between the realms began to fray once again, and the future of the worlds hung in the balance. Elena and Kyle knew that they couldn't allow the Separatists to succeed. They gathered their allies and prepared for a final confrontation with the Separatists, determined to protect the unity they had fought so hard to achieve. The Separatists launched their most devastating attack yet, targeting the newly formed bridge between the worlds. They believed that if they could destroy the bridge, they would end the connection between the realms once and for all. Elena, Kael, and their allies gathered at the bridge, prepared to defend it with their lives. The battle that followed was fierce and brutal, with both sides suffering heavy losses. The air crackled with energy as the forces of unity clashed with the forces of division. Elena and Kyle fought side by side, their bond stronger than ever. They knew that the fate of both worlds depended on their ability to protect the bridge and restore balance, but the Separatists were relentless, and the outcome of the battle was far from certain. As the battle raged on, Elena and Kyle realized that the Separatists were close to achieving their goal. The bridge between the worlds was weakening, and it was only a matter of time before it collapsed entirely. In a desperate bid to save the connection between the realms, Elena and Kyle made a bold decision. They would attempt a final, powerful ritual, one that would fuse the two worlds together permanently. The ritual was risky, and it had never been attempted before, but it was the only way to ensure that the connection between the worlds would survive. Elena and Kyle stood at the center of the bridge, their hands clasped together as they began the ritual. The air around them crackled with energy, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. The fate of both worlds hung in the balance. As Elena and Kael performed the ritual, the energy between the two worlds surged. The bridge glowed with an intense, blinding light, and for a moment, it felt as though the entire universe had paused. The separatists, seeing the power of the ritual, hesitated in their attack, unsure of what was happening. Elena and Kael could feel the connection between their worlds solidifying, the boundaries between realms dissolving, but the strain of the ritual was immense, and they both knew that they might not survive its completion. Still, they pressed on, determined to see the ritual through to the end. The light from the bridge grew brighter, enveloping Elena and Kael in its glow. They held on to each other, their love the only thing anchoring them as the worlds around them shifted and merged. When the light finally faded, the two worlds had become one. The sky above was a swirling tapestry of colors, blending the beauty of both realms into a single, harmonious whole. The bridge, once a symbol of separation, had disappeared, replaced by a unified landscape where the people of both worlds could coexist. Elena and Kyle stood at the center of this new world, their hands still clasped together. They had succeeded in merging the realms, but the cost had been great. The separatists had been defeated, but many lives had been lost in the battle. Now it was up to Elena, Kael, and the council to rebuild this new world and ensure that the peace they had fought for would last. With their work on the council complete, Elena and Kyle settled into a quiet life together. They lived in a small cottage on the outskirts of the new world, surrounded by the beauty of the unified realm. Though they were no longer in positions of power, they remained beloved figures, known for their wisdom and their role in creating the world of peace and harmony. In the twilight of their lives, Elena and Kaya looked back on everything they had accomplished with a sense of pride and fulfillment. They had faced impossible odds, but through their love and determination, they had created a world where unity and peace reigned. Their love had not only bridged the gap between two worlds, but had also left a lasting legacy that would endure for generations. As they sat together on the hill where they had once watched the new world take shape, they knew that their story was one of hope and love, a story that would be told for centuries to come. And in that moment, they understood that their love would continue to endure, transcending time and space, just as it had from the very beginning. The bridge between worlds was no longer a physical structure, but a bond of love, trust, and unity, a bond that would last forever.